Kathy Norris, Iridology Fusion. If you remember just a few videos ago, I showed you a very big polyglandular eye, lymphatic, had connective tissue in it. Let me pull it up because I want to go back in and talk about that eye again. Here is the eye itself. Now we see a lot more information on this eye than what I showed you. I didn't show you the whole eye, I just showed you the iris of the eye. But here's the rest of the story. So let's talk about this story for just a second if we can. When we go into this eye and take a look around, yes, we see a lot of busyness out here in the sclera. Again, this is a right eye. Here's the canthus over here. So when we look in this particular area out here in the sclera, this is just going to be referral into the liver. But we talked about, if you remember, I read from my friend Christos, his book, People with Eyes Like These. We talked about that weak connective tissue from my book, but we talked about polyglandular in his book, okay? So I want to point out those areas to you. But when we look at the right eye and we talked about the connective tissue, here we see the lacuna right down here in the area of the uterus, and we also see this in the bladder. Well, if you remember what we said about connective tissue, those were two areas to be concerned about because the muscles, the fascia, the tendons, everything that holds everything in place can be loose. And then we have some saggy, draggy issues later on. Well, that's the last thing anybody wants is a saggy, draggy bladder going on. Here to tell you about it. Now, when we look out in this direction, now this is out into the thyroid area, we see how the collarette, and we know what the collarette is. Surely we've learned that by now. And if you repeat after me, it's like a collar around the pupil. You know that. It's pointing out into that thyroid area. Well, look at all this busyness we've got out here in the sclera of the eye. Is there any wonder that there could be a thyroid issue? That's exactly when I'm going to send my client in for some heavy duty blood work. I want them to really get good panels, not just a TSH, not a thyroid stimulating hormone test. I want to go into perioxidase levels. I want to test that 3-4, that 3T3-4 conversion there, see what's going on. But again, look over in the liver. We just talked about this. I told you where it's opened up down in the sclera. A lot of times, this happens to be overlooked by a lot of professionals in many industries. I'm not going to point them out. You know what I'm talking about. Happens to be overlooked when we have a sluggish liver that is not processing the thyroid hormones as it should. And sometimes, I'm saying sometimes, that could be why the thyroid is out of balance, is because we do have a sluggish liver. Okay. Remember that liver is a filter for us. If you look here, we see a big open lacuna in the lung area. That's going to be an area I'm going to ask some questions about because I see tophi on each side. I'm going to ask about fluid buildup in the lung. I'm going to ask if father was a smoker at the time this child was created or before this child was created. We can see that we have some busyness out here in the sclera that's going to also refer to that lung. But then again, because it is an open lacuna, there could be a family history of lung issues. We're dealing with the right eye. This could be coming from father's side of the family. Again, these are the standout points that I would talk about to the client. So we're looking here in the right lung. We go all the way across to the thyroid area, down here around the uterus area, and also into the the bladder. I'm at the bladder. There's other features that we can talk about. I see that I've got a contraction furrow running across the top of the head. And forgive me for not using my pointer, but I hope you've been able to follow my cursor. But around here, I'm seeing this little bit of yellow staining. That's kind of in that upper sinus area around the head. Next question I might be asking my client is about sinus tension headaches. Sometimes it feels like you have a band wrapped around your head, and when that sinus is swelling and you have all that inflammation, that band just gets a little bit tighter. Those are some important areas that stand out to me. Of course, I'm going to look for those markings that deal with our glandular issues, our endocrine system, and I can see that in the adrenal area. I see some pancreas markings. I also see a little funnel right off the top of that collarette, and that again is going up into that head area. Lots of questions to ask, lots of details to ask. Stay on top of it, but I wanted to bring you this. I wanted you to see the full focus of this, and I hope you were able to follow along in this little bit of a quickie. I do appreciate you watching. You're doing great work out there, all you iridologists, and I appreciate it. Let's get the word out. Thanks a lot. Have a great day.